What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stressan. I'm your host, Garrett Williams, aka Texans commentator, aka Houston Stressans. Today, we're joined by Ross Tucker, 7-year NFL veteran, and he's also now the host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Ross, how you doing today? Welcome.
Garrett, fantastic, man. I'm doing terrific. I appreciate you having me. It's funny because, as you know, I called a couple Texans games last year for CBS, and I can't remember who, but when I'm doing a game that week, I usually follow some accounts, people that cover that team at least that week, right? So I'm up to date on everything going on. And somebody, maybe two people, told me to follow your account on X. So that was you were part of my prep for my CBS games last year, man. Great work.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I'm happy I could help. And my guess would probably be Sean Pendergast, who I've become friends with. I know that you have a relationship with Sean and Seth on Sports Radio 610. So that could have been it. And I will say, too, I should have mentioned you obviously do play by play. And me personally, I feel like a lot of fans agree, but you're one of my favorite play by play guys. I don't know what it is. Like, I guess the knowledge of the game, the excitement, but kudos to you. And we appreciate that as well.
Wow, that means a lot for you to say. I love doing it, and I think people can tell. I mean, it's a subjective thing, and different people like different things. I just know when I'm watching a game, I just want to know that I just want to be able to tell that the guy is enjoying himself. He's having fun and he loves it. And I think people can tell that when I get a chance to do games.
And that's a great way to put it because that's exactly like what I experience. It's like I'm watching the game with you. We're excited about it together. So I definitely think you're accomplishing that. So I know you're kind of limited on time here. I appreciate you doing this. So I want to lean in on your experience and knowledge from being an NFL offensive lineman. As you know, with the Houston Texans having called a couple of their games, that was a big topic for the Texans. Their struggles they had on the offensive line. So I guess first off, I'll just ask you, with the firing of Bobby Slowick, your thoughts on that, and then with the new OC and Nick Caley, how you think he will do.
Well, so first of all, that was a major disappointment last year. The year before, I thought they actually performed better in 2023 with guys hurt in and out of the lineup all the time. You know, Whereas 2024, I'm watching them on tape and these are supposed to be their guys, right? Like they had the guys all in the position they want them to be at, across the board. With especially earlier in the year when it was Laramie and Kenyon, and then Juice at center, Shaq at right guard, and then Titus at right tackle, and it really just did not mesh nearly as well as I thought it would. I thought that'd be a strength of the team. It was actually a weakness of the team and something that held them back as much as anything else, unfortunately, when you watch them. And so I don't think that there will be a downgrade this year. I think it'd be hard to be a downgrade this year. I like the moves they've made. I know a lot of people are concerned about the Laramie Tunsil thing. I'll get to that in a little bit. Let's start with Slowick and Caley. Now, in fairness, I don't know much about Caley, right? I'm a little bit surprised with D'Amico being so involved on the defensive side of the ball, as a head coach. I thought he might go with someone with experience. I thought he might go with someone that had done this before, because you really need basically a de facto offensive head coach. You need an offensive CEO to run that side of the ball. I guess that tells you that how much faith he has in Nick Caley, but to go away from Slowick, I thought that would be the case. It's hard, even if you study the team as much as I did last year, or you did, Garrett, it's hard to know how much of it is the O-line coach, how much of it's the coordinator, and quite frankly, how much of it's the players themselves, right? I mean, Kenyon Green did not improve, right, to where they thought he would. Shaq Mason certainly dropped off. Then they started moving guys around, and that's never going to be overly conducive to success. I thought they would move on from the offensive line coach and make some personnel adjustments. I was not necessarily, expecting the Slowick decision, but I can also understand why D'Amico went that route. I will just say, they didn't have Tank Dell for a good chunk of the year. They didn't have Stephon Diggs for like hardly any of the year.
Yeah, I mean, those are all great points, and everything you're saying, I think a lot of Texans fans will agree. I mean, the year before, we had a great year, CJ Stroud, rookie of the year, and we had a patchwork O line, and they did well. So, I mean, as a fan, like you said, okay, well, now we're getting all of our top draft picks back and starters everywhere. It's going to be awesome, and it was 10 times worse. So, but it does sound like it was a myriad of things: personnel, scheme, coaching, and to your point too. Like I like that you called out that you thought that D'Amico might have gotten somebody with experience. I thought that too, but I guess that tells us how much confidence he does have in Kaylee. And I noticed throughout the year too, like he is a head coach and focus on defense. He seems to have the approach that he wants to delegate 100% and not worry about it. So that seems to be the way again, and I hope it works out that way. Before we get into some more Texans O line talk, I just want to shout out. I know, obviously I didn't shout out your Twitter handle, but it's at Ross Tucker NFL on Twitter. I got in the bottom there as well. And then you have an affiliate with myfrontpagestory.com. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah, so you'll appreciate this, Garrett. But my a buddy of mine started the company. It's like the best gift I've ever seen to give someone for Mother's Day, whether it's your spouse or your mom or whatever. You talk to a writer, you and your kids or siblings, whatever, and you tell them how great your mom is or your wife. They write this incredible story. In fact, I got one right here.
Let's see it.
It looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. It's framed. It's beautiful. This is actually one that we got from my wife's grandmother, and she had to move into a senior care facility. She wasn't thrilled about that. But to have this there, right? And that's one of her great grandchildren. And she's able to read the story from all of her children and grandchildren with quotes about how amazing she is. She told me at least that she read it every day, right? She's in the senior care community by herself, read it every day. So for anybody out there, parents, grandparents, it's a home run for birthdays, anniversaries, whatever. And then certainly we're about a month away from Mother's Day. It's called myfrontpagestory.com. I always tell people just go there, throw your email address in. They'll send you a 20% discount code right away and then use it whenever you want. myfrontpagestory.com.
That's awesome. I might have to do it myself to kind of pretend like I'm somebody and put it up on the wall behind me. A big write-up about myself. We'll keep that between you and I. So.
You are somebody. I love that. I love that light on the background behind you. What is that?
Yeah, so that's just a Texans one. That's a gift from my father-in-law for Christmas, and then my brother got me that. It's just my handle at Texans commentator. So, yeah, I mean, they know that I'm passionate about this, and I've been acquiring gifts, so it's been a fun deal. And also,
awesome,
too, I'm not sure.
Job.
I appreciate it. And so, like, I guess I don't know how much you know about me, but like, I'm just, a born and raised Houston sports fan, like just anybody else, started a Twitter and, getting my takes out there and it ascended. But, I have like a moniker. It's called Blessin' or Stressan. And basically it's a love it or hate it. And people tend to have an affinity for that. So maybe if you call a Texans game this year, we can incorporate that somehow into the game. I think
Blessin' or Stressan. I like it. Okay. So explain it to me so I know.
Yeah, so it's like a love it or hate it. Like, last year when there were a lot of mocks of like jerseys, coming up with the new uniforms, I would show them and say, are you blessing or stressing? And people are like, oh, I'm blessing this, I love it. Or, oh, I'm stressing, that's terrible. Or, and it derived from my name, Houston Stressans is what I go by, is the Texans play very stressful games. But D'Amico Ryans being a defensive-minded head coach, he tends to want to lean on his defense almost every week. And I couldn't tell you how many times it came down to the final snap. So, I call them the Houston Stressans. So, yeah, so people, when things, go bad, they say they're stressing, or if they go good, they say they're blessing. So there's a couple angles there.
I love it. I love it. You know what else I love on some level, Garrett? I liked the move to move on from Laramie Tunsil.
Yep.
I did. And, I'll tell you why. Maybe you've seen it. I am dying for someone to do a study on the negative impact of his penalties. What was it, 19?
Yes, and I think he would have led the league, but he had one or two not accepted. So he was like second most in the league, something like that. But yes, it was up there. Or he was most in the league.
Yeah, so what's so interesting to me about that is I recognize if it's a sack, okay, the down counts. And if it's a penalty, the down doesn't count, right? Like you repeat that. I get that. But if you look at the research and how hard it is to come back to get a first down or continue a drive when you have a penalty, that is debilitating. He is a gifted pass protector, and he always has been and probably always will be. But at some point, the penalty thing isn't going to change, and that is debilitating. I mean, that really hurts a team. I just I don't think you can pay a guy that much money to have that many penalties. I think that really hurt them. And for some reason, we don't look at penalties nearly as bad as sacks. But let's just say half of those penalties, okay, were sacks. Let's just count every 2 penalties equals 1 sack. You're talking about 9.5 sacks? That's way too many. That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
But because they're penalties, people give it a passing grade. I don't think so. I think it's problematic. They saved a bunch of money by trading him to Washington. And they've got, by my count, 8 playable guys right now. And maybe I'm missing one, Garrett, battling for 5 spots, right? You got Cam Robinson, Titus Howard, Jarrett Patterson, Juice, Blake Fisher, Trent Brown, Ed Ingram, Laken Tomlinson. That's what you need. Yep. You need 8 guys that you feel comfortable playing in a game. They'll all battle for starting spots. They'll find the spot, the best 5 guys. But then you'll have 3 guys, whoever it is, that have played a decent amount of ball, that are ready to step in if a guy gets hurt or if he falters. I would expect Blake Fisher to be even better this year, right? He was a rookie last year. I know for me, I took the biggest jump from year 1 to year 2. And we also have seen the Rams have done a terrific job, where Nick Caley comes from, terrific job of maximizing their offensive line talent, right? I think we can debate whether or not Slowick did that. It might be why he's not there anymore. But I never looked at the Rams and thought they had an overly talented offensive line, but they've gotten a lot of production out of that group, a lot of middle round picks in LA.
I love everything you're saying once again. And then I need to go back and do a study now on Tunsil. So, I mean, my inkling from watching the games is basically every time he got a penalty, it killed the drive. And so, to your point, that's just as bad as having a sack. But it does seem too, like there's one thing for sure. A lot of fans didn't like what the O-line was, the culture of the O-line. Obviously, the play was bad. And it did look like, from fans, like simple stunts, just picking up blitzes. It seemed to be a lot of mental errors, like stunts that happen all the time, like they just couldn't pick it up. So it seemed to be more mental than physical. But regardless, D'Amico Ryans got rid of Shaq Mason, traded Kenyon Green. He's showing that he's trying to change the makeup, and Laramie Tunsil, the makeup of this O-line. So a lot of fans, we were frustrated, like for example, CJ Stroud getting sacked or hit out of bounds, and the O-linemen are nowhere to be seen. So I think, that, as well as creating competition, he talks about iron sharpening iron. The year before, we brought in all these guys and they had no one pushing them. They were like, hey, here's your job. Now it's like, okay, you have to earn it. So do you think that is a benefit? And then, even with that said, you have 8 playable guys now. We have the draft coming up. Do you suspect they add at least 1 to 2 linemen? And then what are the chances that one of those guys can step in and start right away as well?
Yeah, it would not surprise me if they got yet another guy in the mix. And I do think culture matters. I do think you need to have a finishing mentality. Now, I can't speak to like the stuff I see about the O-line meeting room or the locker room. I despise speculating on stuff like that because none of us know. You know what I mean? Like, none of us really know. I just go by what I see. And what I saw was they did have issues with stunts at times. They did have mental errors at times. And they just got beat 1-on-1 at times too. I remember doing the first Titans game, and as soon as Jeffrey Simmons got 1-on-1 with the left guard, I can't remember who was playing it. It might have been Juice. He was toast, right? Like the left guard was such a liability. Tavondre Sweat was able to beat, I think it was Shaq, at the other spot. So they just weren't good enough. And they did not, and I don't even remember the name of the offensive line coach, to be honest with you.
Chris Strausser.
Yeah, and maybe that was intentional because I didn't want to call him out like on TV, but they did not appear to be a well-coached offensive line at all. Not at all. And that's just by the tape. Now, maybe he's the best O-line coach in the world, and all these guys are just not listening. I don't know. But I would like to think that they'll be coached better this year. They've changed the makeup of the room a little bit. I do think having at least one, ideally two, tone setter, that matters, right? And the Chiefs have it with Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey. You have to have guys that they want to physically punish people. They want to be bodyguards out there. You think about John Runyon back in the day for the Eagles, Logan Mankins for the Patriots. I mean, Nick Caserio, he was there with Logan Mankins in New England. He knows the value of having that guy that doesn't take you-know-what from anybody. I don't know if they have that guy right now, but I think it's important to have at least one of those guys. You better find a guy out there that the defense is constantly head on a swivel. Where is that guy, right?
Yeah, we did not have that. And D'Amico Ryans has said this too. He talks about finishing, which, none of those guys did. And I guess if your captain, Laramie Tunsil, doesn't do it, it bleeds down and makes a bad culture. And he talks about, he uses the word nastiness. So these are both things that you're saying. I know we're right at the time to go here. I'll finish off with one more question and we can get a quick answer. But, it seems to me if they're building this O-line similar to the D-line, in the offseason they went and got, a bunch of veterans that aren't the big flashy signings. But, on the interior D-line, they did the same thing last year, getting guys like Mario Edwards Jr., Tim Settle, guys that weren't big names, but then you fit them in there and they have the right mental makeup and they have career years. So could you see those guys like Lakin and Cam Robinson and Ed Ingram kind of, replicating the success of the D-line strategy?
I don't know about career years, but I'll add Derek Barnett to that list.
Yes. Yep.
Of guys you just mentioned. They did an unbelievable job with those guys. I mean, that's the most anybody's ever gotten out of Settle. That's the most anybody's gotten out of Mario Edwards in a long time, and Derek Barnett ever. So
and Foley Fatukasi. Sorry, there was a lot of them.
Yeah, well, I know he was in and out of the lineup, but yeah. So that speaks well to them. I think that is the hope on the offensive side of the ball for sure. That they're not going to hit on all those guys, but if just two of them have their best years, that would be huge. I don't think people realize how close the Texans are to being a legit Super Bowl contender, right? If they can get that better performance out of the O-line, they're right there. They are elite at edge rusher and at corner. And now with Gardner Johnson, he can play. Now their safeties, they might have the best secondary in the NFL, right? You think about the corners, getting Petrie back from injury, and then Kalen and CJ at safety, that they're going to be tough on defense. And I remember everybody's talking about all the officiating stuff from the Bills game, the AFC Championship game. The Texans are the ones that got the raw deal. I mean, the Bills penalties weren't nearly as bad in my mind as the Texans ones. Now, they still lost by a couple scores and whatever, but I think they're there. I think they're ready to be able to beat a Baltimore or a Buffalo or a Kansas. They're going to have to go out and do it. But I do think this roster now is ready for them to do it. We'll just have to see how it all comes together, especially with the new OC and the O-line.
I agree 100%. I mean, the defense is elite. We just need an above-average offense to be in that picture. So I appreciate it again, Ross. Before we go, I know it's time to go. If you don't mind just kind of shouting out everything you have going on, and then just give me one name of, if you could only take one player in the draft at O-line, who would it be?
Got it. All right. So number one, just the best thing to do, no matter what social platform you're on, is follow me at Ross Tucker NFL. I'm probably one of the only, NFL broadcasters that I engage with people. I post. I almost always post the press box food, which, by the way, Houston is knocking on being number one in the league. I mean, they were so excited I was there. They were so excited for me to video it because they were very proud of their press box food spread, and they should be. So you got to follow me at Ross Tucker NFL. I got a bunch of podcasts, right? So the three most important ones right now, Ross Tucker Football Podcast is daily, kind of a national look at the NFL, some great guests. Even Money is the betting podcast for those of you who like to make the games a little bit more interesting. And right now is the College Draft Podcast.
Oh man.
And it's an important one to get ready. I would love if the Texans took Willie Lampkin, the center from North Carolina, with a late round pick. I could have given you Will Campbell, right? Or one of these guys, the Missouri kid, Membo. Like, I could have done that. But I'm going to go Willie Lampkin because I do think it'd be interesting to have somebody in there like Willie. The thing with Jarrett is he might almost be too tall for a center. Well, Willie's only 5'10". So we'll kind of meet in the middle there with Willie and Jarrett and let those two guys battle it out. The way I feel about Willie is what I say about Will Campbell. Like, yeah, he's 5'10". Guess what? He's always been 5'10". And he's always played his you-know-what off. Same with Will Campbell's arms. So I don't want to give you a high pick. I'll give you a later pick in the draft. Willie Lampkin, center from North Carolina. He's like 5'10", 275, and fun to watch, man.
I love that. So I got some film to watch. I appreciate that nugget right there, and I'm sure the fans do as well. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. That's all we have at the on the show here, and I'll be sure to upload on Apple and Spotify, and obviously be sure to follow Ross and everything he has going on, and don't forget about my frontpagestory.com, where I might have to get my own article written about me.
Yeah, it can go right over your right shoulder. You can put number one Texans fan or number one Texans media member, whatever category you put yourself in.
Fake it till you make it, right? Is that how it goes?
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.